meets the road. This time around, we're going to look at 4 concepts that support S.I.O.P and have a lot to do with how things go. Core concepts. Preparation. All those things that we do before we walk into the classroom. Interaction. Both how we work with students and how we encourage students to work with one another. Strategy. We need to have an overall game plan. We need to know where we're trying to go. And delivery. All the various methods that we use to get the lesson across to the student. Preparation. What do our students need to learn to move forward? If we simply repeat what they've already learned, they become bored. If we attempt to give them skills, concepts that are beyond their grasp, they become bored. So it's very important for us to know, what does this student need to learn? What result will demonstrate success? It's all very fine to answer true and false, to do multiple choice, but in almost every case, there is a tangible activity in which the student can demonstrate that they have successfully mastered the concepts of the language that we are attempting to help them produce. Do activities build towards success? We have a strategy. We're trying to take our student to a certain point, our whole group of students to a certain point that is beyond where they are now. Do the activities that we've scheduled lead them to success in getting to that goal? Is content flexible? Very few classrooms, particularly classrooms in which there is a range of backgrounds for all the students, are going to go totally smoothly. So we have to have a plan, but we also need to be prepared to adjust our plan to fit the needs of the students in front of us. This is a simple sample plan, and this general pattern will repeat for most lessons, so it gives us a great place to start in terms of laying out our plan. Preparation begins with a clear vision. Which mountain do we want to conquer? And why? Where are they now? Where are your students beginning their ascent of this mountain of knowledge? And when do you want them to be at the top? That is going to influence how quickly you lay out activities, the types of activities that you use, and whether the goal that you have for this course is realistic. What are the steps and materials? So this is the logistics of moving our students from the bottom of the hill to the top of the hill. Delivery. Clear daily objectives. If preparation is all the good things that we do before we walk into the classroom, delivery is what we do when we arrive. So we need to know, what am I going to accomplish today? What does this particular group of students need to do today to move forward? An appropriate presentation style. If we're presenting online, if we're presenting in person, if we're presenting in the field, there's going to be a different style of presentation. There's going to be different levels of interactivity, both between us and the student students and one another. Paced to student capacity. This still comes back to what does the student know? What do they need to know? And can they absorb what they need to know at this point? Optimal engagement. Optimal engagement is how we manage the classroom in order to prevent it from being boring. And the way we do this is to provide a certain amount of knowledge input, a certain amount of presentation, but a large amount of interaction, application, and practice during the class so students own the knowledge that we're trying to deliver. There's some controversy as to what's the best method for delivery. We know from past studies, and some of these may have been apocryphal, but the general idea, I believe, is correct, is lectures, the retention of the students tends to be about 5%. If there's reading as part of the class, they may tend to retain about 10%. If we go to audio visuals, liven it up a bit, appeal to that visual sense, we might get a 20% retention. And if we demonstrate, I remember all those great chemistry demonstrations that my teachers have done and I've gotten to do at different phases of my career. If we demonstrate, that is really the Mr. Wizard phase. That is our first big growth in ability to deliver. All of these fall under the category of passive teaching. If we want to really start building our retention, making classes that are memorable, we have to move to participatory teaching methods. Discussion groups can raise retention to 50%. Practice by doing, either individually or through the group and teamwork, can raise retention to 75%. And the bottom line, and we all know this is true, is that if we can get our students teaching, they will remember a great deal more. They will own the material because they are now the expert. Delivery methods matter. There is no one delivery method, however. Each of these has features that can be used in your classroom, but it all depends on what your objective is. There is a place for lecture. There is a place for controlled reading and audio visuals and demonstrations. And generally, their place is laying the groundwork so that we can move on to the participatory phase, because participatory is where practice and application actually take place. And this is where learning really takes place. Interaction. Remember, we've got that whole interaction between teaching and learning. Both are important, they're inseparable, but sometimes, it's human nature, we become focused on just the teaching side. And we may be giving wonderful, beautiful lectures. We may be feeling really good about it. But if our students aren't learning, those lectures don't really count. So ask yourself some questions. Does this activity uncover relevant student background, interest, or knowledge? This is part of us building bonds with the students and obtaining basically the market intelligence about our consumer, the student, so that we can create a product and deliver a product that they're going to want to retain. Does this encourage cross-peer info flow? In the interactive class, there should generally be a lot of discussion. There should be a lot of teamwork. And It shouldn't be a question of one person dominating each team. For teamwork to be effective, they need to be structured in a way that everyone has some ability to contribute something to the success of the venture. If they do that, then they will learn from the other students because they have paid in kind. They have contributed to the success of the team. Are team projects appropriate? If you have more than a few minutes in order to teach something, they are almost always appropriate for all the reasons that we were just discussing in point 2 of building those cross-peer bonds within the classroom. Because in the end, most students learn more and have more respect for their fellow students if you have a healthy classroom. So use that. Does the student have time to understand, integrate, and implement? We lay out the knowledge, we create the activity, we need to provide an adequate timeline so that student questions can be handled and so that the students can get settled in and can work together on whatever the project is, or if they're doing an individual project, we need to allow for enough time for them to complete it. So tilting towards the learner side of the equation can be scary, but it's what we need to do in order to get success, both for ourselves as instructors and for our students. Strategy. What is the big picture? What is our big plan for getting those students up the mountain? Set problems and tasks that require strategic thinking. We don't want our students simply operating in lockstep. We want them solving problems themselves in a controlled way that moves them down the path to success. Ask higher order questions. As the class evolves, our strategy is to increase the level of questions that we're asking of the students. We don't simply ask, what color is the car? We ask, what's the purpose of this car? What might we use this car for? Scaffold lessons to support success. Scaffolding is all those little things that we do to ensure that our students are being successful in class. And we're only going to be able to implement them, and we're only going to be able to know which scaffolding to use if we interact, if we act as guides by the side, and actually go out and work with our students, observe our students in their teams and in their individual efforts, and do things to make their likelihood of success greater. Use peers as a resource. Next time, connecting the dots. We're going to take a look at comprehensibility, intelligibility, review, and assessment.